Hi, welcome back to Focal Point AF. Our talk, Brian Fisher is my name. Going to give you a catastrophic global warming update here in just a moment. Before we do that, let's grab a call from Larry, who's been waiting patiently, Clinton County, Arkansas. Larry, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind? Larry, are you with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Go right ahead.
Thanks for taking my call. I'd like to speak just for a minute about this country and how it relates to Almighty Yahweh, the God of heaven and earth.
Mm-hmm.
We know from the book of Daniel that Almighty Yahweh sets up the kings and establishes the borders of the nations at his will. And sometimes he puts in place some of the most simplest men.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's very possible we have one of those most simplest men because he's proven not to be a leader. Now, let's look at that, for that's a material fact that he does it. Israel, they wanted a king like the other nations.
Mm-hmm.
They had the greatest king there ever was and ever is and never shall be, and that is Almighty Yahweh. But they wanted a king like the other nations. So they expressed their heart on what they wanted, and Yahweh allowed them to have what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, they didn't know what was best for them.
Yeah.
He did. But he let them do what they wanted. Now, in the democratic system like we have in the United States, we, the people, we express our will, our heart, when we go to the ballot box and we punch who it is we want to rule over us. So we are getting exactly, by majority vote,
Mm-hmm.
or at least the electoral vote, we are getting exactly what we asked for.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I'm addressing this with you and discussing this with you, Brian, is because I heard you say that you asked Almighty God, and that would be Yahweh, I'm sure, who you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
to bless the President Obama.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need a strong movement in this country, and I know the Family American Radio, it's trying to do its best, but we need ministers everywhere letting the people know that it has to be the will of the people to have a better America.
Uh-huh.
It is the people, because Yahweh is going to give us what we want. If we want a sorry president, we'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
We want a good one, and enough American people has a heart that trusts Yahweh with all their heart, soul, and mind and love him that way, then we're going to have a great nation.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
Well, I appreciate the call, Larry, and I agree with it. And, we get the leadership that we deserve. I mean, that's the bottom line. We get the leadership that we deserve. We get the leadership that we ask for. We get the leadership that we want. We get the leadership that we demand. God, in the end, will give us what we insist on having, because he gave us the gift of free will, and he treasures that gift. He's not going to take that gift away from us. He's not going to revoke it once he's given it to us. He says, and that's the most precious, that's the single most precious gift that God can give to us, is the gift of free will. That's his most precious bestowal, most precious gift to us. And he says, I'm going to respect your exercise of free will, your free agency. I will respect that. I gave it to you as a gift, and I will accept the decisions that you make with your own free will. Now, I made you. I designed you. I know the way life works and the way it doesn't. And I've given you an owner's manual, which will tell you how to direct the affairs of your life, the decisions that you can make that are life-giving and the decisions that are life-destroying. I will set before you life and death, and I appeal to you to choose life. Because if you choose death, if you reject my standards, you're going to pay a bitter price for that because of the laws of nature and nature's God. There's not a thing I can do to prevent that from happening. If you sow to the flesh, you're going to reap corruption from the flesh. It's just one of the fixed laws of the universe. And I don't want that to happen to you. That's why I'm warning you that these decisions are going to rob you of life. But, and going back, Larry, to what you were saying, I appreciate the call. Thank you for that. Going back to, when Saul became king, Samuel appealed to the people not to go for Saul, because Samuel could see how this was going to work out. He warned the people, this is what will happen if you go this direction. And the people just insisted they want a king like all the other nations. Saul was head and shoulders above everybody else. That's the guy that we want to be our king. And God says finally to Samuel, okay, let them have a king. If they insist on it, we're going to let them have it. They'll have to choke on it, but we're going to let them have it. Because he said to Saul, or to Samuel, They have not rejected you. They have rejected me as king over them. And that gets back to what Larry was saying, is the key here is having men of the cloth who fill the pulpits and tell us what God's standards are of right and wrong, of what is morality and what's immorality. By the way, Evander Holyfield, some of you know him. He's in Phil Robertson trouble now. He's on some kind of celebrity program in the UK. It's called Celebrity Big Brother. It's over in the UK. He's on there, former heavyweight champion of the world. He's in a conversation with one of the housemates there, and he says, look, homosexuality ain't right. That's an exact quote. Homosexuality ain't right. It's not normal. There's something defective about homosexual behavior, and he is just being absolutely blistered by gay activists, and some people defending him, but he got called on the carpet by the producers of the program and said, look, that was offensive, what you said. Do you understand how offensive that was? And Evander Holyfield very meekly kind of nodded his head and said, yeah, I understand. I mean, just beaten and cowed by this bullying and by this intimidation. That guy, I don't know who the pipsqueak was that was on the other side of the camera that was giving him this tongue lashing, how offensive this was. You know, Evander could have flattened him with, with a right uppercut. That guy wouldn't see the sun for 3 days. So Evander showing enormous restraint, but just intimidated and bullied into being mousy and meek. Didn't do the Phil Robertson, hey, that's what I believe, I'm sticking to it. That's what the Word of God says. Tough dart, you got a problem. Your problem's with God. It's not with me. Didn't do that. He caved, and I don't want to fault him because I haven't been in that precise situation, but it was just kind of disappointing. But he's in the same trouble now that Phil Robertson was. Now, Jeff and I were talking on the break about this whole global warming business, and Jeff, you kind of track my Twitter feed, and I've been sending a lot of tweets out about the global warming thing and what a scam this thing is, what a hoax it is. My Twitter handle is Brian J. Fisher, or you can go to Focal Point, the Facebook page. Go to Focal Point, the Facebook page, if that's what you prefer, and like our page. Get your friends to like it, or follow me on Twitter, Brian J. Fisher. Anyway, Jeff, it's been interesting to follow the reaction on Twitter, how unglued people have gotten when I have raised questions about global warming dogma.
Yeah.
And you made an interesting observation about kind of what this seems like.
First of all, I want to say what a unique pleasure it is to monitor your Twitter feed during the program. No, but anything that concerns global warming, it seems as though it's a religion to those that believe in global warming. Whether you presented facts, numbers, and scientific data, it's almost like a cult that they just don't want to let go of their faith, so to speak. It's almost as if they've gone so far that for them to admit they're wrong on anything at this point would be devastating.
And you're right. There's kind of this mindless fanaticism of people that cling to global warming dogma, and and they accuse us of being the robots and the brainwashed and the indoctrinated ones, and they seem to be absolutely oblivious to just how mindlessly stubborn they are about this.
Well, this is how bad it's gotten. I mean, I've seen several tweets that are they're basically calling you a bigot for not believing in I mean, I don't know how that happens. How do you become a bigot for not believing in global warming?
Yeah. Well, spouting bigotry and misinformation, lying for Jesus, somebody says. Abnormal weather pattern has nothing to do with New York's climate. I mean, just the lengths to which they will go. And we saw that deal the other day from Yahoo News. Global warming is responsible for freezing you out. I mean, how can you put that together? I mean,
I don't know.
Global warming is causing these record low temperatures. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, first it was global warming, then climate change, and do you remember when they said that the extra snow that we had was due to global warming?
Yeah,
because more moisture was in the air, all kinds of.
It's just absolute nonsense. But they cling to it fanatically. There's a blindness there.
Like there's an answer for everything.
Yeah, so that makes us heretics. It makes us blasphemers. We are, we're insulting the goddess that they worship, the goddess Gaia. We're insulting their doctrinal creed. It's like insulting Muhammad.
Yeah.
They want to lock us up.
I will give them credit for their extensive use of adjectives, though.
most of which we cannot repeat on this family program. All right, Jeff, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And let's talk just a little bit here about some of this global warming stuff. Here's a guy, this is just kind of a throwaway, but this is from Kentucky, where an inmate escaped from a minimum security facility in Lexington, and he wound up going to a motel and begging the police to come back and get him and lock him back up because he was freezing to death. So global warming drove him right in from the cold. Speaking of that, I got a story here. This has nothing to do with global warming, but it's a kind of a cute story. There's this drug dealer, and he's under house arrest in Italy. This is Tuscany, Italy. They put him under house arrest, and he called for drug-related charges. He called the cops, and he said, look, you got to come and put me back in prison. My wife is driving me crazy. So he's locked up at home under house arrest. He can't go out of the house. He said, I'm tired of continuously fighting with his wife, and he asked explicitly to be put back in prison. He said, man, I'd rather be in prison than living with that woman. So they accommodated him, and he's back behind bars. There's another story. June of 2013, a 19-year-old guy was also under house arrest. He said, I want you to come and get me and lock me up. I am tired. I'm sick and tired of playing Xbox. That's all I do all day, sit around and play Xbox. I want to get back inside where I can see the bros. I can have a bunkmate. I can watch TV in the great room. I can work out and all that kind of stuff. I can have somebody else fixing my meals for me. So they locked him back up as well. Now I'm going to finish some of this global warming stuff on the other side because some of this stuff is just too good to pass up. So we'll hit that when we come back. Focal Point, AFR Talk. Stay with us. We will be right back.